You're listening to the Raising Family Podcast with your hosts, David Steele and Linda Hill. Brought to you by thefamilyproclamation.org.
Thanks for tuning in to the Raising Family Podcast. I'm David Steele, and I'm here with my co-host Linda Hill, along with Carol Rice, who is the co-creator of the website called thefamilyproclamation.org. And since this is our first episode, we wanted to talk about who we are and how this all got started, which is why we have Carol with us today.
I would like to personally introduce Carol because I go back about 30 years with Carol. We have done life together. Both of us are mothers we each have 5 children. And Carol has the most awesome family. All of her kids are they're some of my favorite people as adults and even as children. They're fantastic. Anyway, one of the things that we've talked about over the years, we've talked a lot about family, haven't we, Carol? We've covered the whole gamut. But one thing
we went through all those stages together.
We did. We went through, knowing each other when we both had one child. And so we've had babies and just talked about all stages of life. And now we're both in grandmotherhood, and it's fantastic. Life is good. But one of the things that we used to joke about a lot when our kids were younger is that there were those people that had the parade of homes people, but we were the parade through your homes people. And because Carol, I know her well enough to know that her house has always been full, and it's always been, there has been a parade through Carol's home. I mean, the door is always open, and there was always a place at the rice table. And I know that she, as we have talked about so many things in life, Carol has a depth of wisdom that it's a gift. It's a gift. Family means everything to her. And she's always asking questions. She's always learning. She's always striving. And I know that she is just one of the most qualified people to talk about the subject of family. So with that little introduction, because I know that she's pretty modest there, so I'm just going to let you know just how awesome I think Carol is.
That's really nice, Linda.
Carol. I could go on and on, but we only have a 20-minute podcast.
Thank you. It is the joy of my life to gather people into my home, to have them at my table or just have them in my home and be able to hear their stories and their experiences and learn from them. And just everything that surrounds family and home is really what inspires me. So,
well, and that is the specific reason that you're here with us today, because we want to introduce this website that you have helped build, which is called thefamilyproclamation.org. So can you give us a quick explanation of the website before we get more into your background and kind of how we came to be sitting here doing this podcast?
Yeah, sure. The website is basically the Family Proclamation, which is by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's proclamation to the world about the family. And we take it, there's 9 paragraphs, and we take it paragraph by paragraph, and then literally sentence by sentence and annotate it. There's different understandings of what the proclamation is, but it's a really beautiful thing to take it line by line and be able to see the scripture and the scholarly science and people's personal stories and their own witnesses of what those principles and elements of the Family Proclamation mean in their lives. We've tried to bring together a harmony of faith and reason by using both modern and ancient scripture, modern meaning our Latter-day Prophets, and ancient meaning our actual scriptures, and then use that with good science that supports the Family Proclamation.
Wow, that sounds like quite a feat and an amazing website.
Hundreds, thousands of hours.
Oh, I can imagine.
And data points and scripture references, and it's unbelievable.
It's a lot.
It's so cool.
And so how did you decide to take that on? Kind of what's your background in advocating for the family in that way?
Well, like Linda kind of alluded to, and we talked a little bit about, I've always really had an interest in home and family. I got my degree in communications, and I usually worked in sales or marketing, but every job that I took on was always related in some way to the home. It was very home-centric or maybe even home-based. And through those various jobs and roles that I've had over the years, I started meeting more and more people who were interested in promoting the family as well. And I became involved ultimately in a few organizations And then one thing led to another until I was invited to attend the Commission on the Status of Women at the United Nations. I went with a group of delegates who were pro-family. And so that matched my values, but my intent at the time was very business focused. I thought it would be a really cool opportunity to focus on some cause marketing and find some partnerships in that way. But my experience there that first year impacted me in a very profound and actually very personal way. And it really opened my eyes to some of the realities about the family that were hard to process.
Was that more recent? About how long ago was that you first had that opportunity to attend the United Nations?
7-ish years ago.
Okay, so about 7 years ago.
And you kind of alluded to there were some things you saw, some realities that were hard to process. So, maybe you can't go into super detail, but maybe a brief overview. What are some things that opened your eyes?
Yeah, it's true that it's hard to go into a lot of that detail right now, but I did see in a very real way the truth that there are people who are actively fighting against the family. And that seemed like absurd, unbelievable to me. But it is very coordinated. It's very relentless. It's strategic, and it's very deliberate. And maybe some of our actual experiences, we can invite some guests later on for some future episodes or something. Those are interesting experiences, and I learned from them. And I believe that in sharing them, others can learn, and glean from them as well. But
yeah.
Anyway, it was around that time that I became very interested in the research side then of family issues, and I went back to school for a degree in marriage and family studies. And then I also made connections with people from other pro-family NGOs or non-governmental organizations, and even helped form an organization with the intention to help that NGO pro-family coalition with some messaging problems.
Well, so what do you mean by messaging problems?
Yeah. Well, okay. In my experience, most of the time when we try to defend the family, we end up being labeled as haters, or maybe you're anti-gay or anti-whatever, everything.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen that.
Yes. I think anyone who's made that effort has probably come up against that, right? And I really felt that there had to be another way to go about it. I didn't want to use the truths that I knew about the family and about the family proclamation to fight. I wanted to use them to invite.
I love that. Yeah.
A colleague and a dear friend felt the same way. And so we were toying with the idea of annotating the proclamation, but we finally got really serious about it this summer. And we really wanted to put our energy into something that was sharing truth versus that fighting kind of mentality. Do you want me to give you? I'll give you an example.
I love an example. Yes.
Okay, so there's, for instance, a data piece that children who've been raised in a home with a single mother test lower in IQ. And with all things being equal, than kids who have two parents, right, in the home. But you take a look at that piece of data and you have to ask yourself, how does this help?
Right.
How is this
very discouraging?
Yeah, how is this information helpful to a single mom who maybe did not make the choice to be single?
Right.
And certainly the child who had nothing to do with that decision and that circumstance. And so I just had to ask, can we lay down some of these weapons, so to speak, without compromising truth?
Right. Because that could come across very off-putting to people. You say something like that and it seems kind of mean in many ways, right?
And so, but if it's the truth, then should it be said? So that was the big question that we constantly go back to, is just like, how can we not compromise the truth, but always be working to create a place where people can come and feel like they can see themselves here.
And so that's kind of how the website is built then. It's built with that in mind, not to be a fight, not to be a war in a sense, but to be information and truth put plainly.
Yeah. We actually have used, the phrase among us a lot, is that we don't want to debate the family proclamation. We accept it as truth. We want to support it.
Well, and also
and
the
we,
delivery.
and we want to teach it.
And the delivery of the truth, how it's delivered in a way that is helpful versus seen as fighting words, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. So it really is our hope that if we do a good job teaching and talking about those truths, that we won't have to spend so much time defending it.
Yeah.
That if we teach and we invite people to live even one simple element, of those truths, then they become ambassadors of it, right? So you don't spend as much time defending it as, creating ambassadors. And so honestly, that's what we want to work on. That's what I want to create, is I want to create ambassadors. I want to create people who are living, breathing ambassadors of those truths and the principles of the Family Proclamation, and just do our best to get those beautiful truths out there to really help people, be happier.
Yeah.
So maybe you're also saying that strong families don't just happen.
No.
There's a lot that goes into that.
You have to be a little intentional about something that's that
Right.
important.
So that intention, that's something that comes very clear, I think, in what you're doing here. You have an intent to use this information productively, right? So that it'll hopefully encourage people to learn truth, to learn correct principles that will ultimately help anybody, maybe in any stage of life.
Any stage of
This
life.
applies to everybody.
Yeah. That to help people create families, build families, strengthen families, heal families. The principles that we're taught in that proclamation can do all those things if we apply them.
Yeah.
So we want to be here to give people information to help them do that. And there's no other site out there like this in the world. So it's a pretty
That's
big,
cool. That's
it's
a
pretty
cool
big
thing
deal.
to be able to say.
Yeah.
And it's almost surprising. You'd think that there would have been something.
Right?
But it's amazing that now there is.
It's out there.
Well, it's more of
Look at
that
that place.
offensive, not offensive, but
Yeah.
taking the offense versus the defense.
Being intentional.
Being intentional. I love that. I love that about that we do need something that's going to, it's a tool.
Yeah.
And we all need tools, don't we? I mean,
We all need
every
tools in our
parent,
belt.
there's just no way
Absolutely.
we can do it all on our own. And I think that we need those tools in our, I don't know, I'm all about tools. Having the right tool makes the job easier,
I remember
right?
you saying that one time when we were making sandwiches.
Yes.
We were making sandwiches for, 10 kids.
Probably.
And I pulled out a little butter knife to start putting mayonnaise on all the bread. And you reached in my drawer and you pulled out this great big spatula and you said, Carol, the right tool makes all the difference in the world. And you stuck all these pieces of bread close together and just started I would have
started
taken
going
each
after
one
it.
in my hand with a little butter knife and you just got the job done. So any
that's
wonder why
amazing.
you're one of the
there
hosts
we go.
here.
We like the tools. But we all need tools. I love right
Oh,
tools.
that's amazing.
So I think that this sounds like a fantastic tool. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for that.
Can't wait for people to visit it.
Okay, so I guess the question is, why should people listen to this podcast? I would say that we want to drive home the point that strong families are the core of any successful society. We also want to support doctrine and research, and we also want to raise the status of the family. We want this to be a positive place where you can come and learn about the family and how to have success and happiness and joy in family life. What we promise to bring you with each episode is that we will share doctrine, science, and experiences so that you can see your place in the proclamation at any stage of life.
We want to give a huge thanks to Carol for joining us today and for sharing with us her amazing experiences and how she has really pulled together so much and so many people to help and strengthen the family using the proclamation of the family. So thanks so much, Carol. And to kind of close and wrap this all up, we're going to read from paragraph 9 of the Family Proclamation to the World. And it says, quote, "We call upon responsible citizens and officers of government everywhere to promote those measures designed to maintain and strengthen the family as the fundamental unit of society," close quote. And we know that that's true, and we're excited to spread this message and specifically spread that message of the family in society. And we're so excited that you joined us today. We hope you'll join us for our next episode where we're going to learn a little bit more about Linda and myself, the hosts, and we hope you join us on this journey through strengthening the family.
Come on back.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Raising Family podcast. This episode was directed by Whitney Steele. Our research coordinator is Angela Falentine. Audio was edited and mixed by John Wright. The Raising Family podcast is brought to you by thefamilyproclamation.org.